Will you remark further? Representative Sampson.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker.
Afternoon to you, sir.
So I have a few questions about the bill that's before us.
You may proceed, sir.
Thank you very much. I noticed the title says an act authorizing pregnancy as a qualifying event for special enrollment periods for certain individuals. Through you, Madam Speaker, I'm hoping that the good chairman can tell me what a special enrollment period is.
Representative Scanlon.
Through you, Madam Speaker, in this instance, a special enrollment period is defined as when within 30 days of a woman being certified that she is pregnant, the enrollment period would kick in that she would be able to get insurance. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate the answer. But I think you're referring specifically to the bill before us rather than my general question, which is what exactly is a special enrollment period? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Scanlon.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I believe that that would just be defined as a time in which a person could enroll in purchasing health insurance that is different than any other period of enrollment. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Sampson.
All right, thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate that answer also. My understanding is that when you purchase health insurance, essentially there are different enrollment periods established by the insurer that are designed for people to make changes and join the plan. And there are provisions in our law that allow for special enrollment periods where people have an opportunity to join a plan not during those normal open enrollment periods. And it seems to me that this bill is about adding an additional reason for a special enrollment period. Can the good chairman let me know what a typical special enrollment period might be for? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Scanlon.
Through you, Madam Speaker, typically I believe what the gentleman is referring to would be sort of a qualifying life event, perhaps. For instance, you know, marriage, having a child, certain circumstances like losing a job, perhaps, where you would be able, because of that qualifying life event, to purchase insurance in a different way. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Yeah, so based on that answer, I guess a typical special enrollment period would be something where someone's life circumstances change, and therefore there is a significant reason why their insurance needs might change, and we have therefore established this provision to allow someone to jump in on a plan at a point which would not be part of the normal enrollment process. And I just happen to be looking at some of the items that are included in what are eligible for special enrollment periods. And as the good chairman mentioned, someone, they move, or they have an employment change, or some other significant, they get married, something that changes the makeup of their family or their exact position that they're in. The one thing I would stress about this is that this particular circumstance is a little bit different because in each of those other circumstances, no claim is generated. If someone moves from one address to another and that gets them access to change their insurance situation, or they get married, something like that, those are certainly life changes, and they might change the needs that they have for insurance. But that actual incident does not generate a claim. It does not generate a reason for the insurance company to pay out for that life event. And I would just suggest that that is a little bit different here. And just to be clear, looking at the language in the bill, this bill essentially would add someone who discovers that they are pregnant, and if they are able to certify that their pregnancy is within 30 days, they would be able to create their own special enrollment period and join onto a health plan. That is essentially what this bill does. I noticed in the very first section of the bill, however, that it appears that we are purposely removing the Connecticut state employees' health plan from this language. Is there a reason for that, through you, Madam Speaker?
Representative Scanlon.
Through you, Madam Speaker, my understanding is that this bill's target impact would be on women who are uninsured, and therefore those who are insured by the state employee plan or through a municipality would have coverage enough to not have to need coverage such as outlined in this bill, and that's the reason why both the state employees and the municipal employees are exempt, as far as I understand it. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And that's a very good answer, and that was my first reaction when reading it also. So, of course, you know, if someone is a state employee, of course they are part of our health plan and they're not looking for insurance. But it did occur to me that suppose you have someone who is a state employee and their spouse, maybe it's the male who is the state employee and their spouse becomes pregnant even though they are not on the plan. Regardless of the 30-day provision or not, it seems to me that this section would preclude that person being able to join through this provision made in this bill. Is that correct, through Madam Speaker?
Representative Scanlon.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I don't, it's not covered in this statute here, but my understanding is that I'm sure somewhere else in our statutes or somewhere else it is possible for somebody who in this instance would be the wife perhaps of a state employee would be able to join her partner's or the father of that baby's plan, but that's not spelled out here. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Sampson.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate that answer. And I certainly don't want to argue that point, but I believe that the language is quite explicit to say that because folks that are eligible for the state employee plan are not part of this bill, that in fact the spouse of a state employee becoming pregnant, if they are not already on the plan, is not going to be eligible. And that goes to some of the concerns I have about this language. This is a very difficult bill for me. I am certainly sympathetic to making sure that people have as much access to health care as they possibly can. And I'm doubly concerned about making sure that a pregnant mother might have access to health care, and triply concerned that the child is going to be looked after. But at the same time that we're doing this, we have to contemplate whether it's good policy on a couple of different levels, but we also have to consider whether or not this bill handles this properly. And I see a couple of major gaps in how this is being handled. The first one is the one I just mentioned, that we are purposely carving out a substantial part of the population of this state by saying that people that are state employees don't have this provision, and therefore their spouses are not going to be protected. And the other thing is that if you look on lines 17 and 18, it says this only applies to those pregnant individuals not more than 30 days after the commencement of the pregnancy. Through you, Madam Speaker, how do we determine when that pregnancy was according to the provisions in this bill? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Scanlon.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I do not feel equipped to answer that question as to when women usually discover that they are pregnant. All I can say is that through this bill, it would be 30 days after commencement of the pregnancy that's certified by a licensed healthcare provider. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Sampson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate that answer. It's actually exactly what I was looking for, is that essentially we rely on a medical professional to certify the date of the pregnancy. And the language in this bill only allows this special enrollment for those pregnant mothers within 30 days of that certification. Madam Speaker, through you, is there a reason why we don't include women that are beyond the 30 days? Maybe someone has been pregnant for 31 days, or 35 days, or 45 days. Is there a reason why this bill specifically excludes them from this provision? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Scanlon.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I'm not aware if there of a reason for that. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Sampson.
I appreciate that very much, and I thank you. It's a major concern of mine that we are creating this provision, but we seem to be doing it extremely selectively, and it looks like there are a great many people that may be left out. I don't know much about pregnancy personally. I clearly don't have any firsthand experience, but I've never, had a child myself, so I've not even been that close to it. But I can imagine that it's probably at least relatively common for a mother to find out that she is pregnant after 30 days. And that concerns me immensely that such a person would be prohibited from this coverage just because of that timeline. Let me ask another question. Through you, Madam Speaker, does this bill allow a person to enroll in the state's health insurance exchange plan, assuming they learn of their pregnancy within the 30-day certification period? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Scanlon.
I believe it would. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Sampson.
And through you, Madam Speaker, is that the way the law currently works today?
Representative Scanlon.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I'm not familiar with that off the top of my head.
Representative Sampson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll tell you that the answer is no. This would be a creation of this special enrollment period. So certainly, if you found out you were pregnant today, you would not be able to join the health insurance exchange plan, which is modeled after Obamacare. And we recently reconfirmed in legislation we just passed a week ago to make sure that the essential health benefits package is going to apply to every policy sold in the state. Is pregnancy as a qualifying event part of that essential health benefits package? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Scanlon.
Through you, Madam Speaker, yes, it is.
Representative Sampson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't believe it is. I mean, coverage for pregnancy certainly does exist in the essential health benefits package, but to make it a qualifying event for enrolling, that is a separate question. The answer is, in fact, no. Again, these enrollment periods rely on those life-changing events. They do not include the discovery of a pregnancy. And I guess this goes to the heart of what insurance is and why insurance policies are set up the way they are. I appreciate the many discussions we've had in this chamber about the nature of insurance, and especially when it comes to insurance mandates. And in fact, just a week ago, we had a great discussion about the purpose of insurance and why some folks would say that we need to make plans as broad and inclusive as possible, because we want to make sure that that access occurs. But more importantly, insurance works by dividing the risk over a large pool so that everyone's paying in, whether they have claims or not, and that's why we're mandating all of these coverages. So the premium is being collected so that the few people that do have a claim can have the protection when it's needed. And this bill, sad to say, even though I get the point of what we're trying to achieve here, does the exact opposite. It does the exact opposite thing. It discourages someone from purchasing insurance. Why would you go ahead and pay for insurance if you are a young, healthy person, and if your only concern is about having coverage for pregnancy, if we create a law that allows you to have coverage for pregnancy the moment it happens? It seems to me that that is contrary to the notion of insurance, where we have all parties putting in, paying their fair share, being conscientious about protecting themselves in the event that some accident or tragedy befalls them, or a positive life-changing event like a pregnancy. I would just add that we do not make other life-changing things that develop claims into qualifying events, and for good reason. Well, through you, Madam Speaker, is cancer a life-changing qualifying event that would allow you to have a special enrollment into health insurance? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Scanlon.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I do not believe it is.
Representative Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I don't mean to be direct about this. I'm just trying to make a very large point, which is that insurance works when people are paying into insurance as a matter of responsibility for the unforeseen. You know, we would not say it's okay for someone to purchase automobile insurance the day after they have an accident to have their accident covered. We would never say that's okay. Because we recognize in order for automobile insurance to work, everyone has to be paying in over time, protecting themselves from the unforeseen, so that when an accident happens, there is coverage. And that the risk is spread amongst all the policyholders that are paying in. And this particular bill essentially is saying that someone who has not been paying all along over time would still be afforded the same benefit that those people who have are. To me, that is a contradiction that is very hard to deal with, even if the ultimate goal is to try and help someone in a situation, for lack of a better term, that might be difficult to pay for. And I'm honest with the chamber when I say that I'm struggling with this bill. I want to find a way to say that this is okay. I have a couple of other notes here. Let me just touch upon the insurance department. The Connecticut Insurance Department submitted testimony on this bill, and they stated very clearly, the department believes that it is important for women to have access to prenatal care. Of course, we all do. We want to make sure that access to health care is there for every citizen. But believes that the best way to ensure that access is to encourage people to maintain continuous health insurance coverage. This speaks to exactly what I just said. If we are going to make sure that we have a healthy society, that people are protected and have adequate health insurance, we need people paying into the system. This is one of the basic functions of the Affordable Care Act. This is the reason why it was pushed by the Democrat Party, because they believe that it is a best situation when every person is paying into that health insurance pool that will drive down the costs. Now, me as a Republican, I believe the same thing, except I believe the difference is we shouldn't mandate that people buy the health insurance by virtue of creating a penalty for not doing it, but rather by encouraging them by making it as affordable and giving them the most options as possible. But the one thing that is common among both sides of this argument is that we all agree we want to have the most people insured that we can. Having people in the pool buying insurance and protecting themselves is the answer. And a bill that says don't buy the insurance because you don't need to buy it until you need it is not that answer. I think that's all the questions I have, Madam Speaker. And I could probably go on more about the debate over whether or not we should continue to make additional exceptions. The question is, where do you stop? Do you say that someone being diagnosed with cancer is an unbelievably horrible tragedy and we could never turn them away from access to insurance? Yes, I can understand that argument all day long, and I agree. The thing is that at some point you have to make a determination to say you can't give someone insurance coverage after they have the claim. They have to be planning for it in advance. I'll just make one other comment, because several people have come up to me today about this bill and said that this is somehow going to save the state money because it's going to replace the need for state benefits to somehow Medicaid or some other thing to pay for this type of care. I just don't see that. I think the best solution really And it is true that no hospital is going to turn away a pregnant mother, as far as her health care goes. I think that we live in a society where we just don't do that. The question is who pays for it ultimately. And the best solution is that people are choosing to purchase insurance and preparing for that inevitability either way. I'm going to continue to listen to the debate, Madam Speaker. I'm hoping that I hear some more conversation on this bill that makes me feel more comfortable about it. But the way it stands now, I feel like we are carving out an exception that we would not do for someone else who gets sick suddenly or has some other reason that they might have a sudden need for insurance, because we just don't treat insurance that way. It ceases to actually be insurance if that's how it's handled. And I will look forward to that debate. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, sir.